Please, sir, come. I don't know what happened to our teacher.
In the village of Ajani, where the sun cast long shadows over the red earth, there lived a tall teacher named Ugolo. She was known as a kind and dedicated teacher who looked after the village's youngest children. Some parents even demand that the school should allow their children to be in her class. Parents trusted her with their precious ones, happy to send them to school with their meals packed in colorful baskets. Each school day, parents brought these children to her class, satisfied that they are safe. But beneath Ugolo's warm smile and gentle voice lurked a darkness. Each day, when the children opened their food during break, Ugolo would swoop in like a vulture, taking large portions for herself. She would devour the most fragrant jollof rice, the sweetest pieces of yam, and sip the refreshing drinks they came with. Whatever she couldn't finish, she tucked away into her plastic bags to take home. The children, too young and afraid, were helpless. "Tell no one," Ugolo would hiss, her eyes flashing with malice. "If you do, I will make your lives miserable." They believed her. Her words were as sharp as the teacher's whip that hung in her arm, ready to strike at any sign of disobedience. For years, Ugolo's wickedness went unnoticed. Parents were pleased, thinking their children were well fed since the lunchboxes always returned empty. But they also couldn't ignore the truth. Their children grew hungrier each time they returned from the school. Their eyes dull, and their once energetic spirits faded. However, two families whose children were in the same class and school in the village were growing increasingly concerned. Their children, though sent to school with full meals, always came home extremely hungry, pressing and requesting for immediate provision of food to eat. Despite finishing their food as they claimed, their little bodies never reflected same, growing weaker by the day, and they were no longer lively as before. In the home of the Okeke family, Ozioma, a bubbly 4-year-old girl, was sitting quietly at the dinner table, pushing her food around her plate. Her mother, Amara, watched closely. For weeks now, Ozioma had been coming home hungry, even though she was sent to school with enough food for two. Their lunchtime and the time to return from school, very little to warrant such hunger. "Ozioma," her mother finally said, "why are you so hungry after school? Don't you eat your lunch?" Ozioma's eyes darted to the floor. She gripped her spoon tightly, avoiding her mother's questioning gaze. "I eat it, Mama," she whispered. Her voice was barely audible, shaky with fear. Amara's brow furrowed. "Are you sure? You always come home starving. Are you sharing your food with someone? Maybe with one of your friends?" The little girl shook her head quickly, her body tense. Her lips trembled, but she said nothing more. Her mother knelt down beside her, softening her tone. "Ozioma, you can tell me. I won't be angry. If someone is taking your food, or if you're giving it away, I need to know." Ozioma's hands trembled as she lowered her spoon. Her teacher's words echoed in her mind. "Tell no one. If you do, you'll regret it." Tears welled up in her eyes. She wanted to tell her mother the truth so badly, but the fear of Ugolo's threats loomed over her like a dark cloud. She remained silent, her tiny frame shaking as her mother watched, helpless and confused. Her mother decided to leave her alone, as her persuasion might be making her uncomfortable. But she didn't know that her cry was as a result of the truth she was trying to conceal. In another part of the village, the Agu family faced a similar mystery. Their son, Kalu, always returned home from school with an empty lunchbox, but an empty stomach as well. His father, Obinna, paced the room, frustration boiling over. "Kalu," Obinna said, his voice firm but concerned, "why do you come home so hungry every day? You're a growing boy. You should be full after eating the lunch your mother packs." Kalu shifted uncomfortably in his seat. His father's stern voice made him nervous, but the fear of Ugolo was worse. He rubbed his hands together, staring down at the floor. "I ate my food, Papa. Kalu said quietly, repeating the same line every day. I eat everything. Obina's eyes narrowed. You ate it all? Then why are you very hungry each time you return from school? Are you giving your food away to your friends? Kalu shook his head vigorously, afraid to lie, but more afraid to tell the truth. His mother, Ada, stepped in, her voice gentler. Kalu, we just want to help you. If something is wrong, you need to tell us. Are you throwing your food away? Or are you sure you're not sharing your food with someone? Is someone else eating it? Kalu's stomach churned as he remembered Ugolo's fierce eyes and cold whispers. Tell no one. He swallowed hard and told his parents that he doesn't give away his food or throw it away, but that he ate them, after which he refused to talk to them. His silence only deepened the worry etched on his parents' faces. Both families, though puzzled and growing more anxious, were left in the dark. The children, bound by their fear of Ugolo, refused to speak, no matter how hard their parents pressed. The weight of the unspoken truth hung heavy in both homes, and in several other homes, and whispers of concern spread among the families. It wasn't long before other parents began noticing the same troubling signs. The children were coming home hungry, pale, and weak. The head teacher, unaware of Ugolo's treachery, reassured the concerned parents that everything in the school was fine and that the children in Ugolo's class ate their food and have no problem. But the parents were not convinced. In hushed voices at the village market, they exchanged stories of their children's extreme hunger immediately after school. Some wondered if the children were giving their food away to others. Others suspected something more sinister, though no one could say what. But with no proof and the children's lips sealed shut, there was little they could do. One rainy season, Kachi joined Ugolo's class. She was a quiet child, different from the others. She kept to herself, often preferring to sit under the large baobab tree during playtime, always lost in thought. Her eyes, though young, seemed to hold wisdom far beyond her 5 years. But it wasn't just her behavior that set her apart. Kachi had a secret. Her grandmother was a powerful medicine woman, known for her ability to see beyond the physical world. Her grandmother's powers and spiritual abilities were, however, not known to some, among whom is Ugolo. From the moment Kachi set foot in Ugolo's class, the teacher sensed something was off, but quickly dismissed it as her natural disposition. The other children were easy to intimidate, but Kachi would hold her gaze, unblinking, whenever Ugolo glared at her. There was no fear in her. When time for lunch came, Ugolo continued her usual routine, stealing food from the baskets. But Kachi never flinched or cowered. She simply watched. One evening, as Kachi sat at her grandmother's feet, helping her crush herbs for medicine, she revealed Ugolo's wickedness. Mama, our teacher eats our food. She takes from us and forces us to keep silent. The old woman's eyes gleamed with a mixture of anger and amusement. So, Ugolo thinks she can take from children and walk free, does she? She muttered. She dipped her hand into a clay pot and pulled out a bundle of dried leaves and continued in her herb preparation. Tomorrow, my child, you will take your meal to school and let your teacher eat as she pleases. The little girl did not understand the words of her grandmother and never knew it was weighty and ominous. The next day, a strange tension hung in the air as Kachi arrived at school. She walked quietly to her desk, the smell of the food in her basket filling the room. The aroma was unlike anything the children had smelled before, rich and savory. It pulled at Ugolo like a magnet. She watched the clock, counting the minutes until break time. Her stomach growled and her greed deepened. Finally, the bell rang. Ugolo barely waited for the children to open their baskets before she snatched Kachi's food. She shoved spoonful after spoonful into her mouth, not noticing the looks on the children's faces as they watched, wide-eyed. The taste was intoxicating, almost too perfect. But as Ugolo continued to eat, something shifted. At first, it was just a strange sensation in her mouth. Her tongue felt heavy. She paused, running her hand over her lips. Panic spread through her body as her tongue began to swell, inching out of her mouth. She tried to speak, but the words choked in her throat as her tongue grew larger, pulling out of her mouth uncontrollably. It hung from her lips, dragging toward the ground. Ugolo stumbled back, knocking over desks as the children screamed and ran from the classroom. One brave child, seeing their teacher collapse, ran to fetch another teacher.
Please, sir, come. I don't know what happened to our teacher.
Within minutes, the head teacher and other staff rushed in, finding Ugolo on the floor, her tongue strangely extended. She writhed in pain, her face contorted with horror as she clawed at her throat. "Ugolo, what happened?" they asked. But she could only point desperately to her mouth. When she could no longer bear the agony, Ugolo motioned for a piece of chalk. With trembling hands, she scrawled her confession on the floor. "I have been eating the children's food. I made them suffer hunger for years. Please forgive me." The shock rippled through the school like a wave. How could this have gone unnoticed for so long? The parents were summoned, and as word spread, the entire village gathered to see the fallen teacher. Kachi's grandmother stood at the back of the crowd, her eyes cold but satisfied. Justice had been served. The parents' suspicions are now true. They have been vindicated, though they never imagined Ugolo as the person who could attempt such wickedness. Herbalists from nearby villages were called, each more famous than the last, but none could undo the curse that had fallen upon Ugolo. Day by day, her condition worsened. Her tongue, once a source of satisfaction, was now her greatest torment. She could neither eat nor drink, her body slowly withering away as she wasted in her home. The village was divided. Some pitied her, while others whispered that she had gotten exactly what she deserved. As the days passed, Ugolo's once vibrant energy drained from her body. Her eyes sunk deep into her skull, and her skin clung to her bones. One evening, as the sun set and the shadows grew long, Ugolo took her final breath, leaving behind a tale that would be told for generations. This story, from Motherland Tales, teaches us that evil begets evil, hence evil acts should be avoided. Please subscribe, like, share, and comment to our channel so that whenever we post a new video, you will be the first to be notified. Thanks for watching. See you in our next video.